We get a lot of rain in the UK, don't we? It's Annie Silverdale pool here today, and I wanted to try and equate the vision of rain dropping onto the window, and it happens, and we don't even think about it. And then those emotions that also happen, but we do have thoughts around them. When was the last time you cried with a friend? I mean, really cried. When was the last time you belly laughed? And who was it with? Or who was it at? When was the last time you judged someone? I'm not asking you from a place of an ivory tower. I'm asking myself too, because those judgment thoughts come in quite regularly. I know mine do. And if I don't notice them, you can fall into that critical space quite easily. When was the last time you blamed somebody when maybe you didn't know the circumstances because you're looking at it from your perception? When was the last time you felt angry and frustrated and wanted to run away? Do these just come like raindrops inside your head and then run away, or are they overwhelming and maybe overburdensome? How do you cope in these times? Did anyone show you a healthy way to manage life when the balance tips and you feel as if the world's on your shoulders? And maybe you'd even call it suffering. Suffering is on the news, isn't it? 24/7 on most of the channels. It's on social media. It's on my iPhone when I pick it up, even though I don't listen to the news deliberately. What is suffering? If so much suffering is going on in the world, we're not doing a very good job of managing it, are we? Is it something small that blows out proportion? Is it something cultural? Is it something warlike or racial or ageist? Is it financial? Is it extreme loss? Or is it all of these? Is it a human view of something happening outside of us? Mm. Have you ever felt you were suffering? I mean, severely suffering, kind of an anxious dread that won't go away. It's like a lump of concrete in your stomach. I know I have. And it's like a tap you can't turn off. And all around you is changing and chaos, and it feels as if it's you can't work life out. How do you respond? How do you transform that space of suffering into that space of peace that we all long to have most times in the day? How do you do that? Well, I've been thinking about that a lot. And I've been practicing because I've hit rock bottom in my own life several times, probably more than several. The last really difficult one was when my son, Anthony, transitioned by suicide. And I probably suffered every minute for the first 4 or 5 months. And I felt like a big sea sponge that was just absorbing and absorbing all these painful emotions, and they were going around in my head because I felt guilty. I felt I should have saved him, and all of those missing feelings that I had, even though I believe that my beautiful son, his awareness lives on in the afterlife, and I have evidence of that because love is the constant there. But I wasn't looking in that direction. I was looking in the direction of the suffering. Suffering can be pain and illness as well, can't it? And I suppose, in a sense, I had never been taught how to manage the depths of my suffering, losing a son to suicide. I didn't know how to respond. People around me didn't know how to respond to me. They didn't know what to say, so they avoided me. And I don't blame them. I didn't know what to do with me, so why would they? When I got to that place, beyond my suffering sell-by date, if you will, I just reached out. I reached out to that greater intelligence, and I don't care if you call that greater intelligence tree, plant, Bob, Joe, Alma. There has to be something more than suffering. There has to be something more than pain and illness. There has to be. And there is, because we've all experienced that place beyond all of this. This was bigger than me. This was not something I could search around my brain and go, oh, yeah, I've had this before and I had a cup of tea and it worked last time. Nope. Not even in the decades of coaching did I have an answer in my heart of what I could do about that suffering. So I handed it over. And I learned to be in the moment. I allowed myself to be sad and beyond sad. And I asked for guidance. And I began to look inside me. And I began to read things about, not about grief and suffering, more about the constant love that you find, that unconditional love that you see in children most of the time. That was what was totally missing in my life. Even though I have my daughter and grandchildren and son-in-law and family, sisters, sister-in-law, all of that, beautiful friends, I have lovely people. But they're all on the outside, and what really matters when you are in pain and illness and suffering so deep, what really matters is you become an observer. You watch it flow through. You don't get hold of it and resist it. You're not saying to yourself, oh my goodness, I can't have another day's suffering. I don't know what to do. I'm in pain. I'm in agony. I'm this. No, you watch it. Like on the supermarket belt. Beep. There's another bit of pain. Beep. There's another bit of pain. And you take a minute to do that. And then you go make yourself a cup of tea or sit out in the garden or go to the park, whatever else you can do to break up that habit of thinking, because you are not this personal self. What on earth do you mean, Annie, by that? We're bigger than this body that we inhabit. Much bigger. We are spirit selves. And the spirit self knows just what to do and how to respond in really difficult times. So how do you simply be when you have such tumultuous suffering going on? You allow that suffering to pass through and maybe record it. Today, I allowed my grief, and when I felt like crying, I had a good cry. Today, I allowed my grief, just like the rain on the windows. It came, it ran through me, and then it went. I wouldn't say my grief is quite sunshine yet, but there's a lot of sunshine in it. And that's because I have the desire, a really, really strong will not to suffer. It's awful in that place. I allow it to be. You have to try that yourself. Don't take my word for it. What could you take in your ordinary everyday being today and watch it happen? It doesn't have to be a suffering pain. We'll easily let love flow through because it's so light. What about a little bit of frustration? Can you watch that go through without blaming or judging anybody as a result of it? Can you allow it just to flow through? What about when you get that text message and you want to really text back? Can you allow it just to be? Can you put it down? And allow the frustrating feeling of the text to pass through. I'm not saying it's not there. It's arising in your thinking. Everything arises in our thinking. It can never be anywhere else but in our thinking. You know that because everybody else's perceptions are different. They might appear the same to you because you're looking for certain things through your thinking. Allowing. What can I do today? I'm going to allow myself to feel cold when I wake up in the morning. The heating costs a fortune anyway, doesn't it? I'm going to allow myself to feel the change from that cold when I get into the shower and it's lovely and warm. Those are the simple things that you can do. I allowed myself in my deep grief in the middle of December to go outside in the dark and look for the stars. So that was something Anthony and I did. And I allowed myself to cry when I did it too, in the beginning. And I observed that. It was a kind of a letting go of a memory, making new memories, learning to contact Ant and his cheeky mischievousness in his spirit form. And I do regularly. Change, how to love change. Loving change is about letting go of the chaos of holding on, the frustration of holding on. Loving change is about looking for the constant that we are in our spirit self, because that gives us the anchor. Unconditional love is the anchor for our managing and observing all the made-up stuff that comes into our thinking that hurts us. Sometimes when something's simple, we think it's never going to work. Because if you look at the amount of mental anxiety in the world today, and sadly, the thousands upon thousands of suicides all around the world every day, we haven't got the answer in our health system. We're not looking in the right place. What if it was within us? What if we could just start by observing and by handing the suffering over to a greater intelligence? Whether you think that's an alien or a rock or a tree, as I said, or Bob or Joe or Alma, whatever you think that greater intelligence is there, it's there. It really is there. And it starts with you, moment by moment, in the presence of the now time. Not living in the past where I grieved over Anthony, not wishing he was still here in the future, because that's never going to happen. Being with my sadness and the grief right now in this moment. That's where the golden nugget is. Being the witness, being my own witness to my own suffering and allowing it to run through me like a raindrop on a window. Take care. You matter.